On this week's episode of the Jesse T Show and podcast, the amazing Mbye and Njie returns, founder of Legal Equalizer. Man, it's good to see you again. It's good seeing you. Hey, so you got a lot going on in the world of Mbye and your business and what you're creating. And, for those that don't know, and I know you've been on the show before, so you've been able to spread the message, and you've been on kind of a syndicate of different radio shows and podcasts and things, just moving the momentum and the message forward in the movement. Just kind of recap a little bit about what you're working on and what you're doing in your company.
All right, so basically Legal Equalizer is an app that I created that helps, initially started off with helping people when they were involved in police encounters. And so it was an app you can open up, and when you're pulled over by the police, you could hit a button and it sends a text to 5 people with your exact location. We went to police departments, asked them what to do when people are pulled over. So we included, instructions on what to do when you're involved in interaction with the police, as well as your basic laws and rights as well. So we have like the Bill of Rights, and we have laws for every state. Allow you to record that interaction, and the next step is to allow you to actually contact an attorney in real time and have that attorney talk to that officer for you, where you're not doing the talking, getting yourself in trouble. And so basically that's the app where it first started, and it's added other things from domestic violence to immigration, to active school shootings, just where you can let people know where your location is in certain emergencies if you need help. So
it's kind of a cry out for help in the world, the landscape it is today, right? So
right.
Just like in the sense of a lot of injustice going on, and a lot of people that are being wronged, and people that are more than being wronged, but people are dying.
Right. And and it's it started off like I said, because of police shooting after police shooting, and it's something I discussed before on the podcast. But it's an issue that's been going on since basically the institution of policing in America. Like, that's what people don't really understand. Like, the research I've done, there's been a riot over police shooting or killing an unarmed black person every decade since 1900.
Wow.
And so we haven't had a change since then, and so what I got tired of seeing was seeing these videos and seeing the outrage, seeing the protests, seeing the riots, seeing everybody marching, seeing all of that anger, but there was nothing still being done on the other end of it. So, when it first started, it was, hey, I'm gonna record video, record, but then after year 2, I was like, I've seen a ton of videos have been recorded, but the end outcome, the end result was still the same.
Nothing's changing.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it was rather, my thought was, rather than being reactive, because even at that point in time, I loved that initial idea for the app, but it was more of a reactive app. It was more of, okay, I've been pulled over, here's my recording of what happened, but what if you got shot? What's that recording going to do to you?
Yep.
What if you're already in jail? What's that recording? Now you're spending extra money and getting all the other stuff before on there. So it's now, let's nip it in the bud before it actually gets to that point. And for me, the best way to do that was to actually involve other legal professionals, because that's what police officers are. Actually, they're law, professionals. They enforce the law, and so you have to have somebody else that knows the law as well, if not better than them, that can actually help you out. And so that's where we made that change on the app to move forward with that aspect of things.
So what version or iteration are we in now with the app, and where does it stand today in terms of its robustness of what it can do, and what do you see that it has done, and where do you see it going?
So right now, in the process of getting money to pay the coder, we've already built the app for the attorneys.
Okay.
So basically what I've built is like an Uber or Lyft for attorneys in real time. And I've talked to a bunch of attorneys where we've convinced them to change the way they charge people. Because the legal field, I went to a conference a few years ago where all the attorneys were like, the legal field is about to change, but they don't know what the change or the shift is going to be. And so when I was speaking with attorneys, I tell them that a lot of the issues is most of America can't afford them for their rates. $200, $300, $400 an hour. You can't afford that. I read a stat the other day that if 65% of America got hit with a $400 bill, they wouldn't know what to do.
Yeah.
Like they would be completely out of luck with it.
The stat you're right on the money there is it's 39% of Americans have $1,000 saved up for an emergency.
Right.
So it falls right in line with what you're saying.
Right.
It's true.
And so it's, so it's one of those where a lot of people don't have that. So what I've spoken with the attorneys about, and we built it within the app for their legal one, for the lawyer side, is to charge people instead of about an hour by every 10 minutes.
Okay.
Because most traffic stops are less than 10 minutes. It seems like you're there for 800 years because you're like, I'm scared, I'm nervous with the cops, but literally.
Maybe 20 minutes,
Yeah,
30 minutes.
Yeah. 20 minutes max, but most of them are on average about 67 minutes long. They run your tags, get that, and then they'll write your ticket and you're in and out. So it's not that long. So if an attorney's charging $300 an hour, I can afford to pay you $50 for those 10 minutes or even $100 for those 20 minutes because that's more than likely going to be cheaper than the ticket I'm about to get. And so the attorney's not losing money, but now you're expanding the user base where people that normally couldn't afford that attorney can say, hey, here's $50. I've been pulled over. I don't know what for. I don't know the law. Can you listen to what the officer tells me what I'm pulled over for? If it's something that seems fishy, you can speak up at that point in time.
How does it work if I get pulled over and I'm using the app, Legal Equalizer's app, and I get pulled over and I want to contact the attorney? Because I just want it on record, or I just want to be able to answer some questions I don't know. Like, how does the physical process work of that happening?
So within the app, with our app, you have, when you get it, it's like a roadmap. So you have your text your contacts, the first thing you want to do. We have the laws, which I tell people that's not the time to look at the laws when you're pulled over.
Sure.
That's a bit late at that time. So I have those where I want people to look at them, and we're eventually going to start doing push notifications where every couple of weeks we're going to say, hey, here's a law in your state you might want to know about, so people can actually,
a heads up to phone up on.
And it could be on random stuff, It could be anything on, hey, the laws for DUIs have changed, or marijuana laws in your state have changed, or, bankruptcy, just all kinds of different laws people don't know, where people don't know, why people get pulled over, for a lot of things, we can have that in there. And then the third step of the app is where you can record it. And we're actually about to do some things with that as well, which we'll discuss in a little bit. But then the fourth step is just a button that says contact an attorney, where you can hit it. And the old app had it where you had the attorneys listed in there. But now, just like Uber or Lyft, it's going to be like, look for a driver, boom, contact an attorney. And it's going to have a drop-down box of what kind of attorney, whether it's civil, criminal, or like immigration. We'll have the different ones. And cool, you hit civil, it's going to send a signal to all the civil attorneys in that area with the app on.
Yep.
Hey, somebody's looking for a criminal attorneys. Hey, I've got it on. Boom. I'll take the call. As soon as the attorney picks it up on their end, hey, here's my $50. Now the attorney has some money in their account. Okay, I've been pulled over. The officer's about to come over. Here's what happened. So normally it won't take even a minute long, literally. Like, people always think it takes forever. But by the time the officer is at your car, you have the attorney on the phone if they're in that area.
When you get pulled over, your adrenaline's going. Even if you didn't do anything wrong, it's just a weird situation. It doesn't happen very often, hardly ever for a lot of people. And so your emotions are going, and so time kind of slows down in a sense. It makes you feel like it's taking forever.
Exactly.
But that 10 minutes, and so also on that note, being able to reach a lawyer and someone who can kind of make you feel confident and feel better about the process and calm you down a little bit is very helpful. But what is their response in terms of the lawyers have been changing their mindset from, well, I need to bill someone at $300 an hour to, hey, maybe I can get some more opportunities quicker. And then also, not only that, these folks that if they need my legal advice going on, now I've just connected with them.
Right.
They've already paid me, so more likely they're going to be a client again.
Use you for.
How's their response been?
It's actually been good, and it's funny. Some attorneys love that. Some of them actually advertise, hey, if you're pulled over, call me. You got DUI, call me, and some are ambulance. You got in a car accident, the ambulance chasers, call me.
So they're on board.
So some of them are on board. Some of them are, we don't need any more clients because they've been attorneys for a while. So I'm also looking at a lot of younger attorneys that are like first, second year out of law school. Okay. Also, some attorneys are working at law firms, and it's funny, people think that lawyers all make six figures, but when they're first out of school, they're making 60 grand.
They're trying to pay their bills.
And they're paying their bills back. Yeah. So this is a way, just like people that drive Lyft and Uber, they might have another job, but hey, if you're on the weekend and you're at home and you're an attorney, cool, you can take a bunch of DUI calls. Yep. And okay, cool, I might make $300 for an hour, or for this 20 minutes I'll make $100. But if that person gets arrested for a DUI, that's 5 to 10 grand coming in your pocket for that one case alone.
It's almost a lead magnet.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And and if they got arrested or something like that, at least now that person's like, oh, the attorney at least heard or saw what happened, and they know what happened from the beginning. So now we have that relationship. And then even if you got out, like I tell attorneys all the time, let's say you get one person in the hood off. Guess what they're gonna do? Hey, bro, I use legal equalizer and such got me off.
That's right.
You know, such got the, hey, I called them, you know, I called them and the police left me alone because of that, you know? And so now you have people that are now know your name and referring you to that. So it's a way of changing the way that they think about business, but I'm like, you're not going to lose money because if you're on the phone for an hour, you're still going to make the exact same rate that you would have paid. But the issue is now attorneys will charge you for an hour for a 15-minute conversation. Where most people are like, yeah, I didn't really want to pay you $300 for that. I would have rather given you $100 for that 15 minutes. You know, it'd be worth my time. And so that's the next step of this app, which I hope I'll have out in the next month. I'm pretty close to getting some money to get that done, and then once I get it all done, the next aspect is now in terms of just moving forward. I want to build my own hardware. Okay. So I've been talking to people at Georgia Tech, and I've been looking at other companies. I want to build my own camera. So a dash cam.
Like an in-dash?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I want it to go over your rear view mirror. Okay. And I want it
facing out
both ways.
Okay. So and them.
Yeah. There's been cameras I've seen that are like 360 you can have there that can go all around.
So the technology does exist.
Yeah, the technology completely exists. Okay. And you can have it where it sticks in your dash cam and it'll come on by Bluetooth or voice activated or Wi-Fi. So we can have all three options as well.
Nice.
And then I want it where it's actual in real-time live stream. So now when you send that text to your 5 loved ones, they're going to have a link that goes to our website to see exactly what's happening in real time.
So having that in-dash camera and technology will be so beneficial. And talking about how the lawyers will kind of have a benefit from that. They'll have people that'll call in 10, maybe 20 minutes, but then also if there's any further legal issues, they can jump on board and pick up those clients from that call. So
right. And so it's an easy way for attorneys, like I said, to get more clients and also just to build that trust. Because if I'm pulled over or immigration's at my door and I have an attorney that can help me with that situation, even if I've been detained, I'm going to probably put more trust in that attorney that knows more about that situation than anybody else.
Build a rapport with them.
Right, build a rapport with them. And then, and another thing that we're actually trying to do technology-wise with the app and the camera to kind of tie them up is one of the big issues I've seen also is that a lot of people get pulled over and stopped for not knowing about tickets and bench warrants that they have because they missed a court date and stuff. So what we're trying to figure out also with the camera and within the app is if you can put your license info, your insurance, and like your tag. And so every time you cut on the car, we're going to let you know, hey, we can run up, hey, there's a warrant for your arrest, or be your tag expired, or be your insurance expired. So those are probably 3 of the main reasons that people get pulled over. Yeah. And so if you can stop that and nip that in the bud where people are aware, okay, hey, I need to get my insurance updated, I need to get my tag, or like, so if you got in a ticket, I already know this is one aspect we're doing. Let's say you get a ticket, we're having people put it in the next update where you can take a picture of your ticket, put it into the app, and we're going to send you a reminder either when you have to pay that ticket by when your court date is. So you're not missing that court date and driving around with a bench warrant.
Super powerful information.
Right. Yeah. And so it's simple things like that we can do that will help because, what I've seen, a lot of police departments use tickets and stuff as just a way to finance like the city. Like when you looked at Ferguson, after the aftermath of Mike Brown, that's what that report showed out was that the police department literally used the citizens there as a piggy bank. And they were fining them for stupid things and overfining for different things, and they knew that the people couldn't afford attorneys and couldn't afford to defend themselves. So then what do? Then they go put them on probation, which is just another way to collect money because every time you're on probation,
they're in the
monthly.
System. Yeah.
Right, you're in the system. So these are simple things that people could have ahead of time to just stay out of the system completely, where we can then clean it up and have actually policing be what it's meant for, to police, rather than a system of, hey, if I can get this guy, let me get a ticket, we'll get this much money and we can make this much, And there's a lot of departments where report after report has shown that's what they do. And so this is another way just to stop that, where you can help the actual people. And then when you are pulled over, it's actually, hey, I was speeding, I'm sorry, give me a ticket, legitimate reasons.
I think it's a powerful tool to use in unity with the app and the movement itself. Having that in-dash cam technology that looks 360 or both ways, because, we talk about documenting and accountability. If both parties know that there's a possibility, like, to make sure they're acting on their best behavior, that's important. But you've taken it up another level. You've even gone to local police stations, talked to local police chiefs, and you've talked to them about the mission, the cause, the movement, how to save lives on both ends, how to help business on both ends. Can you talk a little bit about what that's been like, your experience of talking to some police chiefs, police stations, the officers themselves, their response?
Yeah, it's been pretty good. Like I said, it first started off, pretty tense because they viewed me as anti-police and like anti-them when, and then when we sat down, and the longer we talked, the more it's like, okay, we actually have the same goals, but we just have different ways of getting there.
Yep.
And, when they realized that I'm actually for police getting paid more, I'm actually for police getting more leave and getting more counseling and getting better equipment and better training.
Yep.
And then I break down how much money they spend on, most of the time it's just a few officers, which is the crazy thing. Like most of the time it's literally 4 or 5 officers that you're like, dang, that cost us, combined like $200,000 last year. Okay, this year they're $150,000. It adds up.
Yep.
And it's because most of the time they get in trouble. You pay off the people that they beat up or whatever happened, and they're still on the force. There's nothing that's been done to them. And so it's being reiterated that, hey, I can keep doing this. I can keep going on with this, where if you get rid of those 4 or 5 guys, guess what? The other 150, 200 officers you have in your department have a much easier job and a much easier time of it.
Yep.
So it's a matter of just, sitting down and making them show that it's about accountability on all ends. Because that's the one thing I always say. I want it recorded on the driver end, because them recording it is putting themselves in full view as well.
That's right.
And we have a lot of times where, you have a dash cam or body camera from the officer's point of view, but you never have it from the civilian point of view.
Right.
And then we have states and laws that are being made now where even that's not being allowed to go to the public or even the victims' families. Like North Carolina passed a law where they don't have to release videos anymore, even to the family.
Wow.
So, if, your brother or somebody went and got shot, you could go and demand it, and they're letting up legally, you can't see it. And so now it's a way also to give closure to those other people as well, to those families, where you can have that video. But I mean, like I said, the main goal is not to have it where you're seeing a video of somebody dead or beaten up or abused. Right, it's too late.
Yeah.
And that's the whole point of getting the attorneys ahead of time and having them have that talk with the officer and de-escalating the situation. I mean, because for the past 5-10 years, every time I've been pulled over, normally I call a friend that went to law school or an attorney that I know, and I'll put them on speakerphone. I'll let the officer know, and the entire interaction changes.
Much different. The tone, everything.
Everything. The officer knows I have somebody there that knows the law, and I'm a lot calmer because I know I have somebody that's listening to exactly what's going on, knows what that's going on. And so it's a much easier situation rather than, I'm pissed off. Why'd you pull me over? Blah, blah, and, cool. Hey, officer, how you doing? And by the way, I have, my attorney's on the line here, and he's just going to let them know why I've been pulled over, and, here's my license and my registration and everything else. And it's much smoother every single time. And I feel like we have enough attorneys in this country to make it where, everybody should be able to have that access to law and legal help.
Absolutely.
right away.
And I think that when you talk about kind of putting the onus and the accountability on truth, right? So if you have the whole thing 360 documented, right, with the interaction from the law professional side, the police officer, to the driver, it's almost like being in a therapy session where you have a moderator or the therapist themselves. If you're doing couples counseling or something like that, you're in a safe space to talk a little bit more free, but you're also going to act a little bit nicer too, because you don't want to show your ass, so to speak.
Right,
you don't want to be that jerk that
Exactly.
on either side, it keeps people a little bit more at bay from doing something or saying something they probably shouldn't.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I tell people all the time, like if you have a camera recording, you're not going to be the guy that pulls out a gun and tries to shoot an officer when he comes to your door, Like it's a lot of different things like that where, like I said, it just makes absolute sense to have it. And I'm still amazed that we haven't had anybody really come up with this fully. Like, eventually I'm gonna go to the car companies and say, hey, I've got this software where you can put in your OnStar GM or, Mercedes put in your vehicle, and it's gonna let people know the laws based on their location, their families there, and we can live stream it right from your vehicle. And, and it's just another layer of protection for that driver as well as the officer. And when you go to the car companies, you can take another step. Like when I get the camera, what does not stop me from having the camera be motion detected? So if somebody walks by your door, touches your door handle, oh, there's a camera on. So now you have, even for the car company, car theft goes down.
Yep.
Because, that's the person that was at my door. I've got it on camera. So it's a bunch of things you can work with technology.
A lot of avenues you can go.
Right, a lot of avenues you can go that started off, on just, hey, let me record my interaction with, police or stuff like that. But now it's, okay, I can protect my property.
Sure.
Kind of like Ring. those the cams. It's just literally
the doorbell camera.
Yeah. Let me see who's at my door before they come here. And now you got people. Oh, my Uber Eats driver was eating my French fries when he got here. This guy is
something in your food you don't want.
Yeah. You get a lot of stuff like that. But even we go back to even like with Chicago. That's how a lot of the officers caught even the Smollett people.
Yep.
Was they went to people's Ring cameras and they can put we see this figure here. We
create
see that
timelines.
Yeah, you have all that. So the more technology that's out there, and people are always worried about being like, man, we're already being. There's surveillance everywhere already,
Yeah, for sure.
And people are already worried about that.
On Facebook right now.
Yeah, exactly. And you look at stuff like also where every traffic light you have, there's a camera there already now,
Yep.
And so it's getting to that point where I'm no longer afraid of technology and people having that out there because, like, if you're innocent and you're doing right, then
you're good to go.
What's to worry about,
So from a business standpoint, and this. More than anything, it's a movement, and it's trying to save lives on both ends, and that's the biggest thing, I think. But there's also a business infrastructure to this movement, and there's all these ways you can go and these different avenues you can go for revenue generation, whether it's different car companies or different things that you're doing. So from the business standpoint, why isn't there anything existing today where it brings the two together, where there's the movement piece of it from saving lives and documenting and helping people to the technology piece of having the camera in the car that's 360? Like, why isn't that in play today? Like, is there legislation that's getting in the way? Is it people being lazy? Like, what's the problem for why because you have a great idea and it's already in the world today. People are using it, but why doesn't it? Where's the competition?
A few things with that one. Number one, I would say that a lot of people in tech don't believe that there's money in social justice, social issues.
Okay.
I spent a solid 3 months out in San Francisco talking to people about it, and they thought it was something brand new. And so that's one thing where they don't think there's money involved in there, where I was like, you guys are flat out wrong. Like, there's billions of dollars spent, trillions of dollars spent on a yearly basis on people wanting to protect their rights alone.
Yep.
And, being able to live their life like they want to and protect their rights. And so there's money spent on that. The other thing, when you look at it, is it highlights the lack of diversity in tech. There's only 2% African American participation in tech.
Really?
It's like 2% women, that are there. And so it's mainly a lot of, white guys, college educated, who don't have to worry about these issues, just to be frank, a lot of, my friends that are white don't have to deal with police issues. They have completely different views of police than I do. Because when they're pulled over, they get treated completely different. And it's a whole different level of policing. So it's issues that really don't affect them as much.
So they don't feel the pain, so they don't feel like a need to change it.
Right.
To disrupt the market status quo, because they don't really know what it's like.
They don't, exactly. And, when I've spoken to some people, though, I've spoken to a few billionaires, and tell them, they're like, yeah, well, I don't worry about getting pulled over. I'm like, yeah, that's why you don't even see the vision or see what's going on, because that's not part of your worldview. It's not part of what you deal with. And even at my age, I don't get pulled over as much, but I still see it because it affects me, it affects people that look like me, it affects my community.
Yep.
And so it means more to me to look at it like that. But there's a lot of issues that tech could fix, that we have the technology for, that we can actually address different things where people are marginalized and people need help. And we don't put that effort or focus into it.
Yeah.
We'd rather, keep fixing these scooters,
yeah.
and, develop filters for Snapchat and Instagram. While they're fun, they're not really saving or helping lives. And when I look at the mentality of people, it's kind of weird. It baffles me. Because I look at, for instance, like the Notre Dame church burning.
Yep. And
I'm a huge history buff, so like that hurt to see it burn. But then I look at how many billionaires immediately gave up $100 million to put it back
that. Yeah.
And I'm like, man, so that tells me that poverty, homelessness in this world could end just like that if they cared about people as much as they care about that building. And it happens when I even look at these riots and when people talk about Black Lives Matter and after police shootings. Well, they're burning buildings. I was like, yeah, but somebody died.
Yeah.
Like, you can rebuild that building. Like, that building probably has insurance. I remember somebody arguing about the gas station that burned in Ferguson. I was like, oh, Quick Trip doesn't have any insurance to fix their gas station? Are you telling me that's what you're telling me? I was like, I'm sorry, but that person can't come back alive. And so we don't look at humanity the same, where, I'm glad that the church is going to get fixed, but I knew the French government had the money to do it. and they were going to get it done.
Yep.
And I'm like, how many homeless people in Paris right now could you fix with that $600 million?
Yeah.
How many people that don't have a meal, that are starving, hungry, could you fix with that? How many jobs could you create? You know, where you're not giving people handouts, where you can go say, hey, here you go, I've got this fund of money, come do this. If you want to come clean up the trash in the city every single day, I'll pay you this money. And so it's just the way we view things, and that's why there's not much more stuff when it comes to social and technology. There's one other company that helps people find attorneys that are equitable, but it's after they've already been arrested or after they're already in the court system.
Yep. It's almost too late in a sense.
And it's almost too late. And they had to, and with these companies, the other thing is you have to prove, it's like we have an extra layer of that we have to prove before we get that funding that we need.
Yep.
So when I went to Cali, I argued with somebody that was bragging about investing in Twitter and Snapchat and all that. But then he was like, yeah, well, I would love to invest in yours, but you haven't shown any revenue yet. And I was like, Twitter and Snapchat have been around for how many years? What revenue do they have? And he was like, I was like, so you haven't made revenue off of it. They've actually been losing money.
Yep.
But you invested in that still. So, I watched that whole video.
It's sexy, right?
It's sexy.
Yeah.
It's like the Theranos documentary. With the homeless woman.
Yeah.
I'm just like...
Great documentary, by the way.
Yeah. I was watching, I was like,
the woman was out of her mind.
Gracious. I was like, can I have one of you idiots believe in me just like you believed in her? Like, I actually have...
Like, she was a fraudster to the point where, like, she was changing her voice and trying to dress like Steve Jobs. Like, she was not authentic.
She was ridiculous.
At all.
She was ridiculous.
And she had $1 billion company.
And people just gave her money and gave her money and gave her money and gave her money, and they didn't go back and check and say, here's what's going on, and, hey, where's this? Like, it was so many steps in that documentary. I was like, you really fell for that?
Yep.
I was like, you're so bright, but it also, it's one of those where I guess they trusted her, and is that where you...
She had the curtain only pulled back so far.
Right.
She could always try to get away with saying, well, we're not allowed to do that legally. We can't say that. Like, she had her script down.
Right.
Yeah.
And she knew that. And so, people are always, looking for that, where I'm fully convinced that there's a multi-billion-dollar investment in technology and social issues. Like there's so
waiting to happen.
Yeah, waiting to happen. And there's some people that are getting into it, and you see more and more people that are building apps and things that actually, and building products that cater to their actual needs and things like that.
Yep.
And it doesn't have to be about race or gender or anything. Like, I know a woman that's building something just for kids, because she's a mom.
Yep.
And was like, I need help.
She feels the pain.
So I need help, sometimes where I need somebody to run an errand for me or do this or pick up my kids.
Concierge service of some sort to help you get time back in your life.
And get that stuff. And she was like, there's nothing like it. And so when I talk to, women especially, they're like, yeah, there's nothing that addresses our needs. And I was like, man, there's a $1 billion industry waiting for women to take over in tech. Because there's a bunch of stuff from hair products and other stuff that men have no clue about that you guys can actually take over.
It's just teaching people about these things.
Yeah, and it's teaching about that, and also having, people having the guts and the courage to take advantage of that. Because, when I started, I don't know how to code. I still don't know how to code. Like, I have no idea what those numbers and lines do or anything like that, but it was taking the step, okay, if I can get this much money, I can find somebody that can code it. I can build it, pay them to do this. I know somebody knows this aspect of it. And so...
You put the pieces of the puzzle together.
Right.
You're the orchestrator.
Right.
You're the one that directs everything, and like that's where it comes from, because you have the mission and you've felt the pain and you've been through these personally, and then seeing enough of these issues happen in the real world just sparked the fire and said, enough's enough.
Right. And people have to have that, just have to have that, hey, I'm going to get it done by any means necessary. And and if it came down to where I didn't have somebody that understood the code, I still probably would have paid somebody, online to be like, yo, figure this out, put this together. I don't know where it is, and done that. But I found somebody that, okay, hey, you get these pieces from there. You can explain it to me and make it make sense. So it's also just people, having that faith, just that leap of faith that, hey, I've got this dream, I've got this goal, and no
Never
matter
give
what,
up on it.
There's been times where it's been rough. Like, the past year has been tough. Where I've almost like, man, I just need to give it up and be done with it. But then I will see another story of something happening. I was like, okay, that's not what needs to happen right now. And, so it's just never giving up on it, where you're like, I know what I have. Yep. I know the vision I have, and I know how close I am to making it happen. And so that's really where, where we're at now, is just continuing that vision and making sure we don't stop it.
So going through those ups and downs of just running a business and being a business owner, and then having that spark reignited in you when something happens. And so there's a lot of constant up and down in any business. How do you keep reiterating, reinventing to keep pushing the envelope forward in your business? What are some things you're doing?
For me, I do a lot of research on, and so almost every shooting or incident of, brutality that goes nationwide, like, it sucks, but I watch the videos. And I get ideas on how could that have been prevented. And I go back from the beginning, and then I speak with I've spoken with a bunch of family members of victims as well, and ask them what they want and what they need. But for me, it's always thinking about different ideas of, like, I literally have this app and company planned out 5-10 years down the road.
Yep.
And so
smart.
Every time I even think about what I have 5-10 years down the road, and I start thinking about it more, then something else pops into my head of here's where, you got to go. And what keeps me going a lot is right now, I'm like the last one that does this. When I first started, I remember when I first got it, it was maybe one or two other apps that had just recording police.
Yep.
And then when I first did it 4 years ago, and we had news articles and stuff, like within a few months, there were like 5 or 6 of them.
Yep.
And there were some that literally copied everything we did verbatim. And now they're not around. And none of them got funding, none of them got money, none of them are around. And so for me, my goal was always make sure that the app is still out of the store and still working and still functioning. We always make sure we keep a social media presence, whether we're posting stories and updates, we're responding to people that email us, to send us messages and things like that.
Yep.
And then just always, letting them know, I know there's something coming down the pipeline as well. And so, I've sent people the screenshots of what our next app is going to look like and how different it looks like compared to this.
Yep.
And, also the other thing I do is I keep in touch with people that have written articles about us, have done podcasts, and let them know, hey, here's something that's coming up in a little bit. And so I've got a bunch of major news organizations when I'm ready for a major release I can go to and say, hey, can we do a follow-up on what we had last time? Here's what we've done. Here's the new major updates. Here's the new major changes and things like that. So we can get that back in the news cycle, and then just networking with a bunch of people that I know that are in media and different things.
Yep.
And it's funny, now I've been driving Lyft for a while because I didn't want to spend company money on basic stuff.
Smart.
And so the money I'm making off of Lyft is paying my
most
light
people
bills.
wouldn't do that, but that's why you're not like most people.
And and that's why
I'm saying that in a good way.
Yeah.
Like the fact that you would go and do that hustle versus tap into the company coffers and say, oh, I can just spend this money. Well, no, you got to build out this other thing.
And that's other people's
great.
money though too. That's the other thing. People invested in it, so it's their money. And so I need to do with their money what I told them I'd do with their money. I don't want to take their money and then be on vacation with their money, you know? And so even driving Lyft, I get people to download the app all the time. And I've met a few people. I've met, met somebody who used to work at CNN. She was like, yeah, I got all the producers there still. Boom, boom, boom. Here's my card. When you're ready, let's talk. I can holler the producer. We'll get you on a segment somewhere. And so I've met people all around, and we just discuss the different things as well. So it's that networking, keeping in touch with people you've talked with before, and making sure that when you do come back, okay, boom, here's what's changed from Legal Equalizer last time. Here's a new update. Here's what we've been doing. And so that's just, right now staying relevant, just staying alive.
Yep.
Cause like I said, because when I go back and look at all the other ones, I was like, man, they're not around. Dang, they're gone too. Oh, they're not here anymore. And so I was like, oh, well, if somebody really wants one, we're the only one. And I still get messages from a bunch of groups today. They were like, hey, how does your app work? Can we send more info? We're doing this. We try to look for other apps like it. There's nothing else like it.
Yep.
And so that's something that keeps me motivated, keeps me going, and tries to keep me relevant.
I think the biggest thing in anything, any walk of life, it could be business, it could be family, it could be interpersonal, it could be anything, as long as you just don't give up.
Yeah.
And if you keep putting that foot forward and you keep trying to get better, keep trying to evolve, keep your connections warm like you're doing, I think that in itself is a win for yourself as a human. But then also, it's just one more door that needs to be open to finding that new funding or that new piece of technology or whatever it is you're looking to accomplish for that part of the year. And then the fact that you're the only one still in the game, so to speak, it's a good thing.
Yeah,
it's a good thing. It can be tough. It can be hard. It can feel like entrepreneurship gets very lonely.
It is.
But knowing that, going into it and setting up measures to, not be able to step back and give up. I think that's the biggest piece.
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, entrepreneurship is harder than most people think.
Yeah.
You know, it looks glamorous, but it's only glamorous at the end.
That's right.
Once you've sold, once you've made the money.
The overnight success took 20 years.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, and that's the thing that keeps me grounded as well is I look at them 4 years in, and a lot of times I'll get frustrated. But then I'll look as like, man, Uber didn't get built in 4 years. No. Facebook didn't get built in 4 years.
And they're still building. They're still growing.
Amazon didn't get built in 4 years. They started off as just a book selling place.
Yep.
You know, and they grew and they had their ups and downs and all that. So it's something that always, you know, keeps in the back of my mind. Okay, you're not as bad off as you think you are.
Yep.
You know, because you beat yourself up as an entrepreneur when you're not always moving forward. When you have that stall and you're just like, okay, I'm in this spot now. You beat yourself up all the time. But then when you sit back and look retro, I was like, man, I've gone here with a fraction of the money that these other people have had, and so if I just keep going here and eventually get this, it can get to this level. So
so that's what it comes down to, man. It's always growing, evolving, but also enjoying the way, enjoying the process to whatever the end goal is. And as a business owner, you know this. There are checkpoints, but there's really, the road's never finished. Right. And speaking the road leads to a bunch of different places, but a lot of times there's a personal part of this too. So you are from Gambia, West Africa, and there's a lot of turmoil that's been going on there for decades with dictatorship and lots of crazy things. So it's made it hard for you to stay, I wouldn't say connected, but get back home physically. And so you're planning a pilgrimage of sorts to get back to family, to get back to some roots, and to be able to get back over to Gambia now that things have changed in the political climate over there. Tell the folks a little bit about what that looks like, and maybe even there might be a documentary about it. Yeah.
I mean, so I moved here when I was 7 years old. Couldn't speak a lick of English. I went back to Gambia when I was 9 years old. I spent the summer there, and then came back, and that was the last time I've been there. So I'm now 38, so that's 29 years, and I haven't seen my biological mom since then. And I have a little brother who I haven't seen since he was a little kid, and a sister who I haven't seen since she was an infant. And they all have kids now. You know, so I've got nieces and nephews I haven't seen, and part of the reason was, like you said, we did have a dictator for 22 years that got kicked out in 2016, and before that, it was about 10, 15 years before that, he sent an email to all the people that worked in the government, and I'm named after one of my uncles, and my uncle was very outspoken on social media about the dictator, and my family actually had, you know, we've had some terrible stuff happen due to, you know, his regime. And so he sent a message to people that worked there. If there's anybody named Mbye that came to Gambia from Serekunda, which is where I was born, that they would arrest them first and then have them ask questions. And so my dad was like, you can't go home whatsoever.
Wow.
And so that's the main reason. And then to top it off, the last elections, my uncle was the one that was the election commissioner that ran the election. And when it happened, the dictator first conceded, you know, that he lost and was gracious, but a week later he changed his mind.
Yep.
And then
couldn't handle defeat.
Yeah, couldn't handle it. And he called my uncle in the week before, tried to bribe him. My uncle's like, no, we're good. Like, this isn't about money. It's about, you know, moving the country forward. And then that following Monday, my uncle went to his office. His staff was kicked out. He had military people with guns pointed at them, said, you can't go there. He goes home, he's getting death threats. So he had to flee the country. And so I want to do a documentary. Like I said, we're going to probably go back October, November. And it's going to obviously be me showing the reunion with my mom and my family, which I'm not going to tell them when I'm showing up. I'm just going to knock on the door. It's like, hey, remember me?
Do we spoil it by putting it out on the podcast? Or?
No, you'll be all right.
Okay.
You still won't know when I'm coming, Mom.
We can edit it out if we need to. So.
They still won't know. And then my little brother was a refugee in Libya for over a year.
Okay.
And Gambia is one of the top two in percentage-wise of migrants trying to get to Europe.
Okay.
And the other one is Eritrea.
Mass exodus, just want to leave.
And Eritrea was the other one, and shockingly, we're the two smallest countries in Africa, but both were run by dictators for decades.
Wow.
And so they both, you know, had the highest percentage of people leaving to try to become migrants. And it's crazy when you look at the country now, the average age of Gambia is 19 years old.
It's very young.
And that tells you anybody with money gets out.
Yep.
And so I definitely want to, you know, talk about that as well in that aspect of things and going back home.
Has it changed though, like with the dictator kind of being, you know, whether it was overthrown or just, you know, someone came in and beat them out and they handled that now that they're in power, the better power? Is it a better place to be? Is it a better way of living? Like, how has that changed?
It's that's what I want to see. It's interesting to see. I mean, I know for a fact people have a lot more freedoms, especially like social media now. They can criticize the government. And
are there blackouts? Like, I know there's certain places in the world that still will black out. Like, I guess maybe North Korea.
That was a
blackout. Like,
that was the crazy part of the election when he was losing at first. Like, because I was following it on Facebook and everything. You could follow it live, and all of a sudden it was a power blackout for like 3 hours, and he came back and he was winning. You're like, wait a minute,
right? Something's up.
Yeah, and I mean, and even before like the elections, he did something where he cut off the country's internet and phones for 2 days, so you couldn't even call into the country. People couldn't call out, and you couldn't get anybody on Facebook or Twitter or anything like that. So I couldn't reach any family members or anything like that. So it happened then. And the new president, I mean, he was elected democratically, and the funny thing is, it's seeing a new country in its infancy.
Yeah.
Basically, we've only had 2 presidents, so they were both dictators. I mean, one says he was democratic elected, but he robbed the country of money. Them robbed the people of money, and that's the bottom line. Like, the country is extremely poor, but those leaders extremely wealthy. Like when this last president got ousted, he flew 3 airplanes. 2 of them were full of cars. It's like 40, 50 cars. Rolls Royces, like Bentleys.
Taking
like
the money
Maybachs.
from the people.
Yeah. And, you know, he left the country with like $2 million in the entire government coffers. So $2 million to run the entire country, which is not enough to run the city.
Which is nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
When I was in the Navy, whenever we were underway, which was out to sea, there were numbers being thrown out there because we were on a small aircraft carrier. Just the cost of operations was $1 million a day.
Yeah.
A day. For 1,000 people.
And we had to get help from Europe, you know, to help us. You know, some people brought money in. And so it's, you know, looking at just all of that now, seeing the different people react to democracy, being able to criticize different, you know, initiatives and different things the president's doing, like, that's good. And it's interesting to see. But what I don't want Gambia to forget is that we also created that mess ourselves.
Yeah.
And that's one thing in history I'm learning. A lot of people have revisionist history where they try to make themselves or their family look better rather than take the onus on themselves. So when Gambians were like, that's not Gambia, what happened? I was like, yeah, it was. It was other Gambians helping this dictator kill other Gambians. It wasn't foreigners that came in and helped them kill our people. It was our own people killing each other. And we can't forget that. And we can't forget we have the capacity for that evil.
Because you don't want it coming back around.
Yeah, we don't want it coming back around again. And so that's why even, you know, you see my posts on Facebook when I talk about even stuff like race in America, where I was like, we need to have an honest discussion and get it out, where it can't be like, hey, I blame you for slavery. No, of course I don't, because, you know, nobody here owned a slave, was around, but we have to have the discussion of what happened during slavery, post-slavery, and the rules and the laws that affect the country to this day. And we haven't had that discussion, and so Gambia is having that talk right now about what led us.
To have the talk.
You know, and we have a Truth and Reconciliation Commission that we're building out, where we can be like, hey, yo, we're not gonna jail you for, you know, these crimes and stuff, but we want the truth out for the family, for the healing. And South Africa did that with apartheid, and it helped a lot.
I think the thing that, and I had this conversation with someone earlier today in another podcast episode, was we're going to disagree, values, morals, whatever level, you know, you want to think the world is a good place. But here's the thing. We're in a society now where if you disagree with someone, you're either racist or there's something wrong with you. It's great to have the discussion. It's even better to disagree and still get along. Like,
right.
You can understand someone where they're coming from. You may not have to agree with it, but you don't have to get heated, and it doesn't have to turn into like a breakdown of communication. I think that's where the issue is now, is if we can keep the dialogue going, it's okay to have differences. As a matter of fact, it's what makes us interesting.
It's what makes us good.
Yeah.
But then my issue here is the problem I'm seeing now is those disagreements, and my biggest issue are coming. People are using their opinions against facts.
And then the people that are super romantic about a fact or something that they believe is an opinion, but then if they're presented with facts, they change their mind. That's an issue. That's poison too.
And it's what's poisoning it. So like, you know, the other day we saw Congress bring in like Candace Owens to testify.
Yep.
And she was talking about there was no such thing as Southern strategy. I'm like, that's 100% factually incorrect. There are books written about this.
Right.
Like, these are facts. So it's like when people argue about, well, the Civil War wasn't over slavery. I'm like, every single state wrote within the first 2 paragraphs. Like, Mississippi didn't fuck around. Their first sentence. We leaving y'all because we want slaves.
Right.
I'm like, these are facts. So you can't, so either you can romanticize them and call them liars because they wrote what their purpose was, or believe what they wrote their purpose was, and discuss why they did that, and say, that's not me, that's not who I am, that's not who it is. We've evolved as a people and as a culture, but let's not argue about what was factually incorrect. And so a lot of people look at stuff like that and they take it personally. That's what I'm realizing. That's why I like I said, the work that my mom does, where she's taking out that personal stuff. And so if I talk to somebody about slavery and stuff that's a white person, to just get them off, I was like, guess what? I can't knock you. You know why? I'm from Gambia, West Africa. We were one of the largest hubs of slaves being traded out. Yep. Guess what my family did? We sold the slaves. Does that make me an evil person? No. Does that make people in my family did wrong, horrible things? Absolutely. And we can discuss that. And we can have that conversation.
And try to never get back to that point.
Yeah, try to never get back to that point. But let's discuss the facts and look at where it went wrong. And, okay, why'd they do it? Okay, there's no explanation of where, no, I can't be like, yeah, that was still cool. Yeah, great grandpa, that was cool. You sold 1,000 people over there. Wonderful, good for you. We got rich off of it. No, that's not cool. And so we have to have those talks where even when it involves family and stuff, where we don't hold it as personal.
Yep.
And that's the thing where we've gotten so tribalistic in this country, where anything against you,
that's a big part of it too.
Is so personal.
Putting yourself into a group and saying you have to fit there,
right?
Versus being malleable and being a part of multiple groups or multiple thought processes,
right? And just and looking at things from a different person's point of view.
Yep.
Putting yourself in their shoes. And that's why I think it's great to always have a diverse group of friends and diverse opinions,
conversations,
and conversations,
discuss
things
ideas,
like that, and that's something that we really need to get to, at this point in time, where we really don't have those talks anymore. And I've stopped doing it with people. Like I don't argue with you if we're not arguing based on the same set of facts, or if we're not looking at things the same way.
Yeah.
I was like, and if we can look at that, we can have an honest discussion, and we'll disagree on a lot of stuff.
Yep.
But we can at least go away, and I can say I respect you for your point of view, and you stuck by it. And so. It's one of those things where I don't know how to get it back to that point in society, but it's also something I think, once again, that role of technology, and I think a lot of it has been with social media. The implementation of likes and commenting, and how many followers you have, how many friends you have,
or the ability to censor and either block people or delete things. Right.
And so all of that stuff is something we can work on, because a lot of that stuff now, like a lot of these people that are now out here actively spreading false information, is because they have a lot of likes.
Yep.
They have a lot of followers.
Yep.
And you look, clout. You have clout. You look at somebody like Alex Jones, who spread that the Sandy Hook shooting was a lie for years.
Yep. He's a big conspiracy theorist.
And then now you put him on trial under oath, and he's like, yeah, all that was lies.
Yep.
But you had people having death threats. You had people that had death threats over there. You had people who lost kids, who have been harassed. And so where is the role of, us at that point in time to be like, no, what he's saying is 100% factually incorrect.
Yep.
There's videos of people here. There's graves with these kids. You have all of this stuff. You have death certificates. And when we get to a point where I think we need to hold these people accountable, I don't think we should censor them at all. But I think we should have like a fact check count on it. Yeah, that's a lie. I think that's the role of social.
He goes down the rabbit hole.
Yeah,
I've watched him on Rogan a couple times, and he has some interesting stuff. And that I've yet to delve into his world, because you can go crazy some of the stuff that he's into. But for those who don't know who Alex Jones is, he's has some amazing theories. He feels a lot of them are true, and just go research them and figure out for yourself, kind of what you believe, and that's the biggest thing. Think for yourself, but have facts that you can go back to.
And like I said, if the stuff he has, and I believe in some conspiracies. Everybody does. Everybody has their own stuff, but for me, it gets to the point of where your conspiracy and your lack of facts are harming and hurting other people. That's where we need to draw the line at, and so I don't know. Like I said, I think there's a lot of work still to be done on it, but I don't know. I don't know how I feel about the future of where we're headed right now, to be honest.
Kind of putting it all together with social justice and technology and entrepreneurship and kind of leading the charge and all that. What's a message or a thought that you want to get out there, and then how can people get in touch with you and find out more about what you're doing?
Let's see. Message and thought that I want to get out to people is, if you have something you're passionate about or something you truly believe, Don't be scared to put it out there in the world. And one thing I've learned about being an entrepreneur is a lot of people have ideas that they're scared to tell people about because they're afraid that they're going to steal it.
Yep.
And if I never put this idea out to the world, I would never have an app. I wouldn't have a business right now. And I wasn't afraid that somebody was stealing it because they can't steal your brain. And that's why I tell people they can't steal your thoughts.
Yep.
So somebody can come right now tomorrow and copy exactly what I have on this app, but I know I've got things down the road that they have no idea. They have no idea where it's going.
Yep.
And so it's, I think everybody has some purpose or something that they're truly passionate about, and they need to figure out what that is. And chase it. And it doesn't have to be technology or anything like that. It's just something you can actively chase, and it's something that actually, puts that drive and fire in you. Like, I never thought that this was going to be where I went, like I look at this like I look at sports, that's what passion and gets me motivated and excited. And so when you find that, I just tell people, I think you need to not be afraid. Don't be afraid of failing.
Yep.
Or
fail faster.
Yeah, or fail fast, exactly.
And then get back up.
I've failed plenty of times in plenty of things. And most of the times when I fail, it's helped me become more successful if you learn the lesson from that failure. And so that's the one thing I do just want to put out to people. Just don't be afraid of going after your goals. And if you fail, you've got another thing ready to go.
Yep.
And so I'm not afraid of this company failing whatsoever. I'm pretty sure we'll be successful. But if not, then I've got other things, and I have lessons I've learned, and even my losses here in this company, I'm learning and building as we go along still.
Yep. I think the big thing that society needs to understand is failure is a good thing because you learn, at the very least, how not to do something or what you want to do. And then the other thing to failure is as long as you're not giving up on something, you haven't lost, right?
Right.
And loss can be a word that means so many different things, but I look at failure as a pretty good thing in my business. Yes, it might not feel good, and yes, I might let myself or other people down, but if I'm not giving up on the mission and the vision, I didn't lose.
Exactly.
I just had a speed bump I have to figure out, course correct, and then get back on track.
Exactly.
So I think that's the mission for a lot of people.
And I mean, if Tiger Woods can come back after all those years, I mean, you got to look at that guy. He went rock bottom personally, professionally.
Yeah.
Everything.
And he just never gave up.
And never gave up. I mean, he had how many back surgeries and fusion?
Almost 20 years since his last.
Yeah. Spinal fusion. His knees were gone. Ankle surgery, like all of that.
Every reason to give up.
You got divorced, and it was a public, horrible divorce.
Best friend, his dad passing.
Your dad, exactly. You look like you were trash. You cheated on your wife when she was pregnant. Like, everybody knocked you down, and then here it is 12, 13 years later, you're winning the biggest tournament again, and you're back at the top of your game. And so, failure is just a part of life.
Yep.
Like, I don't know one person who's won at everything in life,
or that someone who did it was a good human being.
Right.
Someone who did, because when you lose, you're humbled, and having a sense of humility for a lot of people that are doing big things is kind of what makes them successful, because they can relate. They can relate to people going through, especially if, let's say, you have a company and you have X amount of employees. If you're the one that wins all the time and you're the greatest at everything, you can't relate to your people that are changing and growing and coming up. Like, I've been guilty of this too. Like, when we used to work together back in the day, I thought I was God's gift to sales. Like, I was crushing it with sales. But then when I became a manager of people that sold, I was like Michael Jordan becoming the owner of the Bobcats. I sucked at it because I expected everyone to be able to go out and hit 30 points a game.
Exactly.
And then I realized through that I sucked as a leader because I couldn't teach people to do that, or I didn't give them time to grow under their own wings, so to speak.
That's all. I mean, that's what happens with a lot of greats. I mean, you look at it, I don't think there's really been that many great athletes, that have gone on to become great coaches. It's very rare.
Yep.
Because, like, even Magic Johnson mentioned it when he first coached for the Lakers. It was like 10 games or something he coached. And, he coached them, and he was just like, I had literally issues I couldn't understand why they couldn't do this.
Yep.
And I was like, that's because, he was like, I realized that's because I'm Magic.
Yeah.
He's like, no, people can't do that. And Jordan, like you said, the same thing. So, I mean, you have to just understand that everybody has different ways of getting to their different goals and different things.
Different roads for different people.
Right. And so, that's really, just being patient with people.
Humility, patience, empathy go a long way. So it's been great, man. Having you back on. We'll have you back on for the sports edition. We can talk about your Atlanta United and the football club here in Atlanta, and then some other things with politics. But how can the people hear more about Legal Equalizer and connect with you?
You can. We have an Instagram, legal_equalizer_ app. We have a Facebook page, Legal Equalizer, as well, that puts up stories and updates on the app and things like that. You can email me, Mbye, Mbye, at legaleqapp.com. And then you can follow me and find me on Facebook or Instagram, Mbye, Njie, Mbye, Njie. It's not too many of us there.
Unless you go to Gambia, there's a few.
Yeah, it's maybe a couple of us in Gambia.
Well, I'm grateful to have you on the show again. Thank you so much for your time and everything.
Appreciate
and I'm Jesse Tedisco. That's Mbye and Njie. Join me next week for the newest episode. Take care.